Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to talk about Genesis 4, verse 1. And the man knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain. And she said, I have acquired a man with the Lord. This verse, seemingly about conception and childbirth, is treated in the Zohar and Midrash Agadah as a profound mystical moment, the first union after the exile from Eden. It represents not just biological reproduction, but the emergence of human co-creativity, the struggle of duality, and the first spark of redemption mixed with shadow. The first phrase we have, and the man knew Eve, his wife. Sacred union and lower worlds. The word knew implies more than physical relations. In Kabbalistic language, da'at, knowing, represents a deep fusion of consciousness, a union of soul and body, male and female, giving rise to manifestation. As above, so below. This knowing reflects supernal union. However, since this union takes place after the fall, it occurs in the realm of exile, within duality and distance. The Zohar views this moment as the first attempt to bring light into the world of separation, but it's mixed with impurity. This explains why Cain, the product of this union, is not purely light. The Midrash connects Adam's union with repentance. After the expulsion, Adam and Eve separated for 130 years in sorrow, and this union represents a return to one another, showing the power of restoration after sin. Some Midrashic views also assert that Eve believed Cain to be the Messiah, a tragic misjudgment that reflects humanity's early confusion about redemption. Next we have the phrase, and she conceived and bore Cain, the firstborn of struggle. The name Cain comes from the root kana, to acquire or possess. The Zohar teaches this child represents the primordial mixture, the first emergence of a soul in the lower worlds, still clinging to ego and self-assertion. She acquired, but not from holiness alone. Cain bore the mark of mixture. Cain embodies the duality introduced by the tree of knowledge, the potential for great strength, but also great destruction. He is the first soul born into concealment, into the field of tension between light and darkness. The Midrash explores his name. Eve says, I have acquired a man with the Lord. Some sages read this as prideful. She felt she had created life like God. Others say it's humble. She acknowledges that even with pain and toil, birth is only possible with God's help. The phrase with the Lord, co-creation or overreach. The phrase et Yahweh is deeply mystical. The word et refers to the Shekinah, the divine feminine presence. Thus the Zohar interprets this as Eve unknowingly referencing the union of masculine and feminine forces that produce life, both on earth and in the upper worlds. She uttered more than she understood, naming the union of Zeir Anpin and Shekinah. However, there's ambiguity. Some readings suggest Eve believed she had acquired divinity itself, a form of spiritual overreach rooted in her unresolved ego from the fall. This tension sets the stage for Cain's tragic destiny. Midrashim vary. Some accuse Eve of arrogance, others praise her for gratitude. The tension reveals a deep truth. The first steps of co-creation are always mixed with error and awe. The Kabbalistic dynamics, the first lower soul. In Lurianic Kabbalah, Cain is considered the first spark to fall into the klipot. He embodies Gevurah without Kesed, raw force without softening. His soul comes from an imperfect vessel, and his journey is one of imbalance. Yet within him lies the potential for great rectification, which his descendants and later souls like Moses will work to complete. To summarize, Genesis 4 verse 1 describes Adam and Eve's first union and the birth of Cain, but in Zohar and Midrash Agadah, it opens the drama of human creation, distortion, and divine potential. The phrase, "and the man knew Eve his wife," the Zohar sees this knowing as a reflection of divine union, but now occurring in a lower, veiled world. The Midrash says it is an act of reconciliation and restoration after their long separation. The phrase, "and she conceived and bore Cain," Cain's name from Kana, which means to acquire, implies ego, force, and possession. The Zohar sees Cain as the first soul born into duality, carrying both potential and danger. The last phrase, "I have acquired a man with the Lord," this phrase is ambiguous. The Zohar reads it as a mystical utterance about divine co-creation, but also as premature spiritual ambition. The Midrash sees Eve as either grateful or presumptuous, reflecting the complex inner state of early humanity. Thus, Genesis 4 verse 1 begins not just history, it begins the struggle of humanity to create, to redeem, and to balance power with humility, knowledge with awe, and earth with heaven. That's it for today. Thank you very much for your donation. Be blessed, everyone, and I will see you on the next episode.